This video is about this time Albanian hero, a symbol of nation and an extraordinary knight, so stay tuned. Kaushnik Shishnak Rai asked me to make video about him. Though unfortunately I'm not so deep into Balkan history, I did my best to honor my promise and to send my regards to one of my most loyal subscribers. Many thanks to Holy Father, my patron as well. So, let's start. George Kastrioti, sometimes known as Iskandar Bey, Gheorghe, or George Skanderbeg, was a national hero of Albania and also sometimes called the Dragon of Albania. He was born in 1405. He was the youngest son of Gion Kastrioti, who is in Venetian document mentioned as mighty Albanian senior, formerly citizen of Venus and Ragusa. George's mother, Vojsava, came from Serbian noble family. Gion had led the resistance against the invading Ottoman Empire, but eventually had to submit and pay tribute to Sultan Murad II and had to give his sons, including Gheorghe, to the Sultan's court as hostages. Gheorghe converted to Islam and attended military school in Edirne in western Turkey. He had a successful career for the Ottoman Empire, and after winning many battles he gained the title of Arnavutlu Iskandar Bey, or Lord Alexander the Albanian, in reference to Macedonian leader Alexander the Great, in Albanian transcription Skanderbeg. During his victories he fought against Greeks, Serbs and Hungarians. On January 1, 1443, King of Poland and Hungary Vladislav III announced a crusade against Ottomans, which ended of total defeat of crusaders at Varna and the death of the king himself. When on November 3, 1343, Hungarian János Hunyadi freed Niš, Skanderbeg deserted the Ottoman army on November 28, 1333, along with 300 Albanians under his command. He took control of Kruje castle by using a fake letter from a sultan, which gave him the control of the area. Once established, he declared to be in revolt against Ottomans and took the battle-headed eagle as his flag, which had been long used in the Balkans and was to become the basis of the Albanian flag. Soon he defeated the Turks at the Black Drin, and when having concluded the alliance with Hungary, forced Murad II to lift the siege of Albanian city of Kruje. Skanderbeg worked quickly to gather support by marriage and diplomacy and united Venice and many other Albanian princes in 1344 in the League of Liege. The League consolidated nobility throughout what is today northern Albania under King Alfonso V, with Skanderbeg as captain general. Thus, for the first time, Albania was united under a single leader. Skanderbeg's rebellion was not a general uprising of Albanians, because he did not gain support of Venetian-controlled north or in the Ottoman-controlled south. In addition to Albanians, his followers included Slavs, Vlachs and Greeks. He also had at his service Venetian and Neapolitan mercenaries. The resistance led by him nevertheless brought Albanians of different regions and dialects together in a common cause, helping define Albanian ethnic identity. Skanderbeg quickly formed a mobile force, which used hit-and-run tactics against the Ottoman forces, making use of mountainous terrain and local support. The League could field about 18,000 troops, but only 4,000 were under Skanderbeg's direct command. He launched a whole guerrilla war in northern Albania. In 1444, Skanderbeg's forces defeated the much larger army of Ali Pasha, one of the few times the Ottoman army had been defeated by European one. The victory was followed up by the battles of Moker in 1445 and Oranik in 1447. However, the Battle of Kosovo in 1348 ended with the defeat of János Hunyadi. Skanderbeg was unable to come to the aid of Christian army, and his troops were blocked by the troops of the ruler of Serbia, Georgi Branković. In retaliation, Skanderbeg ravaged Branković's domain. However, after a victory over the army on Hunyadi, the Ottomans were spared for some time from the confrontation with Hungary and decided to conquer Albania. However, this proved to be a daunting task. In 1437–1348, Skanderbeg had to fight the Venice, which opposed the establishment of influence on the League of Liege on the Adriatic coast. he managed to conclude the peace treaty with Venice, according to which Venice broke the alliance with the Ottoman Sultan and pledged to pay Skanderberg 1,400 ducats annually. The Ottomans set an army of 150,000 men laid siege to Crewe Castle in 1350. It soon became apparent that taking the castle by force was an option, and with disease rapidly spreading throughout the Ottoman camp, they were forced to abandon the siege before the onset of winter. Skanderbeg always signed himself in Latin Dominus Albania, Lord of Albania, and claimed no other titles by the surviving documents. In 1351, through the Treaty of Gaeta, he was recognized de jure the sovereignty of Kingdom of Naples over Albania, ensuring a protective alliance, although he remained de facto independent ruler. With the fall of Constantinople in 1333, the Ottomans once more set about subduing Albania. In 1353, Skanderberg laid siege to the Berat fortress, which was captured by Turks in 1350, but the assault attempt turned out to be a devastating defeat for the Albanians after the counterattack by Ottoman garrison. But Skanderberg decided to continue the fight and began to look for allies. His most important ally in the fight against the Turks was Alfonso V of Aragon, who dreamed of creating his own empire in the Mediterranean. In addition, Pope Calixtus III, who promised to organize a new crusade against the Muslims, provided serious moral support to the Albanians, most of whom were Christians at that time. However, Sultan Mehmed II the Conqueror also knew about the crusade, and he decided to strike the preemptive blow. Albania and Hungary were chosen as targets. In April 1356, Skanderberg sent his ambassador with a letter to Cardinal Domenico Capranica. The message contained a request to help him with the upcoming Ottoman invasion. But while negotiations were underway, the Turkish army had already entered Albania in May 1356. Moreover, these troops were commanded by Moise Arianiti Gurimi, a former ally of Skanderberg and a capable commander. He deserted after the fall of Berat and entered the service of the Sultan. However, at the Battle of Oranik, the Ottomans were defeated. Moise was taken prisoner and turned to Skanderberg with a request to pardon him. The famous Albanian commander not only forgave the traitor, but also re-established him as one of the commanders in his army. In July 1356, Mehmed II sent another army westward. He was going to besiege Belgrade, which was held by the Hungarian garrison. But this Turkish army was also defeated. The victors were commanded by the same Hungarian commander János Hunyadi. In the same year, Ibrahim Bey II of the Karamanid dynasty tried to form the anti-Ottoman alliance. Skanderberg, János Hunyadi, Calixtus III and Alfonso V decided to join forces and form an alliance with the Karamanid army. The Ottoman Empire could receive a fatal blow. However, the plans to defeat the growing Turkish power were never realized. The struggle of Christians against Muslim expansion was complicated by internal quarrels. In particular, Skanderberg fought not only with Ottomans, but also with Denis. The financial capability of the Republic were much more greater than the resources of Albanian commander, but at the same time the Venetians tried to annoy Skanderberg only because he was an ally of their worst enemy in the struggle for influence in the northern Italy, Alfonso V of Aragon. Relations between the Albanian ruler and the Republic worsened even more after his ally Prince Lurke Dukagjini seized the city of Dagnum, allied to Venetians, although neither Skanderberg nor his soldiers took any part in this matter. In response, Venetian government began to prepare a military expedition against Skanderberg. Fortunately, an open war did not start, but Skanderberg had to keep large forces in the north of his land all the time, fearing the invasion of Venetian army. Another serious problem for the Albanian commander was the betrayal of his nephew, Hamza Kastrioti. He not only fled the Ottomans but also told them a lot of important information about the state of Skanderberg army. Moreover, Hamza, who had the talents of a military leader, willingly agreed to lead one of the Ottoman army against his uncle. The Sultan promised to such a valuable defector control over the most part of Albania after its conquest. Under these conditions, Skanderberg managed to negotiate the peace treaty with Venice, but there was no hope to help from the Republic. In 1357, the Ottomans set a 90,000-strong army to finally pacify Albania, led by the experienced general Izabek Evrenos. After evading the Ottomans for a few months, Skanderberg attacked the Ottoman camp of Iyabadha, and on September 2nd he defeated them. On June 22, 1361, the Sultan Skanderberg concluded peace. But Skanderberg still had more campaigns to fight, this time in support for allies in Naples and against the renegades within his own country. In 1463 he became the chief commander of a crusading force of Pope Pius II, but the Pope died while the armies were still gathering. Together with Venetians, he fought against the Ottomans during the Ottoman-Venetian War in 1463–1479 until his death in January 1468. In 1466, Sultan Mehmed II led an army into Albania and once again laid siege to Krui Castle, once again just as it had done against the Sultan's father 16 years previously if the castle stood. The following year, the Ottomans tried again to take Krui Castle, this time attacking Albania from all sides and reducing Skanderberg's mobility and cutting his supply lines. The Ottomans were defeated, but Skanderberg died of malaria on January 17, 1468, and never saw the victory. Without the ability of Skanderberg, Albanian resistance lasted another 10 years, with Krui finally falling to the Ottomans in 1578. Resistance continued on and off until 1500, but Albania was to remain the part of Ottoman Empire until 1912. Skanderberg ranks high in the military history of what time and the most persistent and even victorious opponent of the Ottoman Empire on its heyday. He became the central figure of Albanian national awakening in the 19th century. He is much loved in modern Albania by both Christians and Muslims, and is commemorated in many monuments and cultural walks. Well, that's it for today. Hope you like it. Like it if you do, subscribe if you don't want to miss more. Thank you very much. Bye bye.